indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any citizens' comments outside of the hearing? No? All right, we're going to move on to special recognitions.
The first item, I just want to recognize, we lost a member of the Auburn community, Mr. Ed Banal. His son is a member of our master plan team. Mr. Banal, I did not know him, but he was a great contributor to the town, a member of the Council on Aging, Keeping Auburn Warm, the Auburn Housing Authority, Auburn Senior Center, and Auburn Council on Aging. He was also a member of the Board of Directors of Mercy Center and the Board of Directors of Catholic Charities of Worcester, as well as being a member of North American Martyrs Church and the Knights of Columbus for many years. So I would ask you to join me in a moment of silence for Mr. Banal in keeping his family in our thoughts. Thank you. And now we have Mr. Kennard and Mr. Bonaccio, members of the History Department at Auburn High School, and the leaders of We the People, who are here to give you a brief presentation as well as to seek your support of their trip to Washington, D.C., again representing the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts and certainly making Auburn proud.
That's what we do.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Spencer Kennard, and this is my colleague, Vince Bonaccio. And we're just going to quickly run through just what We the People is, what our trip is, and again, seeking your support for our students. We have a tremendous group of students, and we're extremely proud of them and what they were able to accomplish, having the best scores in the state for the nationally known program called We the People. So there's our, I don't know if do the half lights go off or no?
I think so.
Yeah, you
Right
can
over there.
I think the ones to the right, perhaps, Spencer?
Okay.
There you go.
Just so you guys can see.
So these are lovely dressed students at Braintree High School, and this was on January 31st, Saturday morning. And we were just very excited to be there. Traditionally, it had been held at Harvard University the last couple of years, but through some schedule changes, Braintree was able to take us in at the last minute and to host our competition. And this is after we won, which was very exciting. And this is us with Congressman McGovern, who visited just a few days ahead of time. It's almost become a tradition to have the congressman visit the kids and wish them well for a sundown. So he's almost our big supporter for us. It's very nice. So where we're at and what we're doing. Our goal this year is to raise about $50,000. It's about $1,400 per student. Again, this program used to be federally funded, but it was cut about 3 or 4 years ago when it was deemed that it was not necessary to have a program supported by the federal government that supports civic education. So our funding sources, as last year, we're seeking out businesses, the district as well, organizations and foundations, private individuals. We're currently selling raffle tickets. The students are right now at the 8th grade orientation selling raffle tickets. We're having a spaghetti dinner on April 3rd, which is also a great revenue-generating fundraiser for us. We have our GoFundMe account, which is hyperlinked up there, and we have some food fundraisers planned for Buffalo Wild Wings, McDonald's, Applebee's, and Papa Gino's. Buffalo Wild Wings is going to be on Sunday, March 8th. And 20% of any purchases at Buffalo Wild Wings will go towards We the People. So that's our target goal. Last year, we had just about the same target goal, $50,000. We were able to raise close to $47,000 with the students. So we subsidized the students' payments. They ended up only having to pay around $200 or so, maybe $230 per student, which is obviously much more manageable than $1,400. So anything.
Yeah, and that money was raised in the span of 2 months.
Right, 2 months.
Yeah.
So the competition was later this year. So we are again very much on the ball right now, and of course we'll kind of hit the ground running after we gain approval for the trip from the school committee. So traveling to DC, the chaperones are myself, Vinny, Ashley Isgro, another social studies teacher, and then Melissa LeBome, the social studies department chair at Auburn High School. We'll have 29 students going with us, and last year we had close to 25 to 30 family and friends join us, and we're hoping to have a big turnout again. And they really said they enjoyed themselves and had a great mini vacation, along with, they kind of would join us, see the kids compete, and then would kind of go do their own thing. So it worked out really well. The itinerary for right now, we'll leave early morning on the 24th, and then we'll be in Washington, D.C. on the 25th, the 26th, the 27th. We'll be returning to Auburn High School on April 20th by 2 p.m. We're really going to hit that target. We have many kids who are involved with the production of Legally Blonde, and that is their tech week, and so we will be making sure that they get back in order to participate in the play as well. The flight information, they're still figuring that out for us. It'll probably be through TF Green Airport in Providence, and then we can certainly present that information to you once we have it at the next meeting. Hotel, food, and bus. Last year we stayed at the Holiday Inn Dulles. I had requested the same hotel again, but that location is still TBA. The security is great, though. In the rooms, they have hall monitors from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. Every single meal is provided during the trip, with the exception of the breakfast on the day that we leave, and then the lunch or the dinner on the day we come home. All bus transportation is provided. We have requested a coach bus with a wheelchair lift. We have a student who requires the use of a wheelchair, and they said that would be no problem getting a coach bus with a wheelchair lift. So the day plans, again, just more or less our highlights from last year, but looking everything from the Air and Space Museum to the Newseum to the National Archives, and we'll have a photo op in front of the Capitol building, which I think is a traditional, in the 8th grade, I think it's almost the same company in the same exact spot as well, so that's very similar.
The one thing that we could add to that right now is we're working to have a meeting with Senator Warren.
Yes.
So her scheduler seems to be amenable and thinks that we have an opportunity to go to her office and have a meet and greet with her for a couple of minutes or however long she's willing to give, which would be great.
Absolutely.
And Congressman McGovern was going to host us as well in his office. The national competitions, again, they'll be once again held at George Mason University. It's a fantastic venue, beautiful campus, and it's nice, the kids kind of get the college experience, a few weeks ahead before they actually graduate. So that's rounds 1 and 2. If we are, fortunate enough to become, in the top 10, then we compete on Capitol Hill at the Capitol building. So that's very exciting as well, in actual, congressional hearing rooms. The standards that are covered, we truly do hit all Massachusetts government frameworks. We hit all the frameworks that are covered by the AP curriculum, and also the We the People curriculum is a nationally known program created by the Center for Civic Education, and it does align with the Common Core. And again, thank you not only to the school committee, but also to our school and just the Auburn community. You've been very generous so far, and we really appreciate your help. And, as Vinny and I always say, we're not professional fundraisers by any means, and, we're teachers and fathers and husbands, and, it's difficult to raise this much money, so we do appreciate the support of the community helping us out in this massive endeavor. Because when you see $50,000, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money, right? And we say that all the time. And in my room, I have a whiteboard that's dedicated to the $50,000 master plan of raising all this money, and I'm reminded of it daily. But it's definitely a well worth it. Having done it in high school, having done it last year, it's a program that I would say is one of the most valuable things that our students will experience in high school. So,
You did fabulous.
Any questions for us?
Excellent presentation.
Yeah, I think great presentation.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have
Ms.
a
Harrington?
comment. Dr. Brunel was giving us the play-by-play when you guys were in
Oh.
Braintree, so it was very exciting.
Great. Oh, thank
And we
you.
were all in the group message, and we were all just thrilled to see the progress and
Thank you.
what you guys accomplished, so.
Yeah, thank you very
Great
much.
job.
We,
Yeah, it's awesome.
I just received a disc from Carolyn Jeffries. So she did. She had all the film footage from that she filmed. I'll get that to you later. I had just gotten it
Great.
earlier today.
Great.
So I think you said you wanted to put it on public access.
Yeah, I think through the chair on local cable, they taped the event and they've reduced it down, but I think for people in the community to actually
Yeah.
see how impressive and professional and how well our students represented themselves in the Auburn community, I think will go a long way for, hopefully, some people will even, who maybe otherwise may not have been considering it, may support it, because it really is a tremendous program.
Yeah, the clip is about 3 minutes long, which is
Okay.
probably good enough for television. And even last year, we had people walk into the high school and just kind of drop off, little envelopes with a couple of dollars here and there. So just word of mouth alone kind of piqued the interest of the community. So this is just something else that'll do that. So thank you for, being able to air that. And
We had 152 individual donations last year.
Yes.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah. The entire funds were really community-based.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that we're, again, another example of Auburn students making the town proud of you guys. And everyone, I'm happy to work with you to help raise the funds as well. I'm happy to email you some ideas or something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have some fantastic students.
Well, I want to say thank you for the job you've done, and I mean, when they won last year, I was so excited, because some of them are my former students,
Yeah.
and there'll be some again this year, and it's like, wow, they did it again, this is so great, and
You
just
have to
amazing.
you just have to talk to them and ask them about it. You can hear it from us, and we can hype it up. But to really talk to them about what they've gained from it, it's amazing. They say it's the best thing they've ever done.
Wow.
So, and we're not just trying to hype ourselves. It's genuine.
Yeah.
There's a point where they realize that, wow, I really care about what's happening around the country, and I seem to know more things about than my parents, which is kind of like a real cool moment for them.
Yeah.
So, we're doing a good job.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I would like to say thank you for doing what you do, because if it wasn't for you people and the students, this wouldn't be happening. And it's a lot to do donations, because I've had done myself, and it's a real hard thing to deal with. But I'm glad that you got this group together and you're spearheading this, and it's a great thing for our students. And I want to thank you personally, and the students and the community for helping you. I think it's a great cause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just to kind of follow up on what Wayne said, I'm impressed by what the students have accomplished and with your leadership the past 2 years. But more so, you going above and beyond. This is outside of your job description. This isn't a vacation for you by any means, and leading up to it is a whole lot of work from the sound of it. Anything I can do to help with that, I certainly will make a donation, and I'll be at the spaghetti dinner, and maybe I'll be
Thank
at
you. We saw you there last year. And we'll,
Buffalo Wild Wings, and what else, McDonald's?
It's hard, yeah. You don't have to twist the arms very hard. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We aim to please.
Yeah.
That's the way I could help out best, but no, I'm impressed that you guys are going above and beyond,
It
really.
is a lot of
Swing
work, but the
addicts.
payoff is well worth it.
And we appreciate it, and I'm sure that the students and the parents appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now I would entertain a motion to approve this trip.
I'll make a motion to approve the trip.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
supporting
Thank
us.
Have a great time.
Good luck.
Thank you. Will anybody else be using the projector, or should I turn it off?
I don't think we have.
No, I think you're okay shutting that off,
Okay.
actually. Thank you both very much.
Continuing with special recognitions.
Since it's 7:50, we should do that. Since that was posted.
Yeah.
You want to do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, because it was posted at 7.
Okay. We will move on to the Swanson Road naming public hearing. Yeah. Wait till these guys are. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I will open up the floor to any public comment. I don't know if you want to go in the order that you arrived, or alphabetical order, or how you'd like to do this. Mr. Kais? Is it Kais? Is that correct?
Mr. Guys, yes, yeah.
Evening. My name's Tom Guys. Big question I kind of wanted to bring in tonight. We saw a lot of the names that were listed, just released to the paper and whatnot. We're wondering what the memorial was referring to. Because we have a lot of this in town, there's a lot of new memorials and whatnot, and it seemed like it was kind of a dreary contribution to a name for something that's youthful, innovative. We think of kids as, not necessarily dwelling on the past. So having memorial in the name just kind of struck everybody that seemed to have seen it as kind of odd. So we're kind of curious if we just get some comment from the committee on where that came from.
I was one of the ones that thought Memorial would be a good name because I was thinking of Mary D. Stone and Julie Bancroft and memorializing those two schools that that are no longer going to exist as schools. And that was where that came from.
Okay. Because I think that wasn't necessarily communicated clearly through the name that was suggested. And, if it's going to be integrated, we should probably try to work that in. But obviously, at that point, it becomes far too long. So, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to speak next on behalf of the renaming? Mr. Kennedy, is it?
Sure.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good, welcome.
My name is Kevin Kennedy, just coming to listen to what the naming rates discussion was. My feeling on the namings of the schools, if it's not a particular entity like the Pappas Fields based on the donations, that the names, unless there's a significant name to be applied, which I don't know that has really surfaced amongst the subcommittees. My feeling is the intermediate component of it may be slightly confusing. I know that's the focus, that 3 through 5 is the currently, but as things, Dr. Brunel can certainly attest, things could change over the course of the years and student populations, and things may have to be adjusted and different grades adjusted within the facilities that are available based on the population and the student body. So my concern there is the intermediate may not always be representative of the student body in that building. The memorial as well, again, unless it's truly a memorial, usually a memorial building goes with a particular name, someone from town. So the memorial component I really didn't see as well. I think the most basic names is identifying the locations. Being involved as part of a statewide public safety agency, I like schools that utilize street names. My sister teaches at Northborough. She's taught at 2 schools there, the Peasley School and the Lincoln Street School. I have no idea where the Peasley School is, but I certainly know where the Lincoln Street School is. And that goes for, again, in my occupation, if there is a critical incident at a school, not having to find out what the address is, knowing just based on the name of the school. And that's kind of the trend where we have Packagug, we've got Bryn Mawr, they're geographic as well as identifiable schools within the town. So any naming of the school, I think, unless there's some heartfelt component to this building and the naming of it, as my personal opinion is, the Swanson School, Swanson Road School would be the most appropriate and basic in keeping this a simple process naming. That's all. Thank you.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments?
Not yet.
Okay. Moving right along, any other public comment for the hearing? No? Seeing none, any comment from the board?
No, I think good suggestions.
I think they're all good suggestions, but I think, as Gail had brought out her reasoning for the memorial part of it, I think I kind of like that myself too, for the other 2 schools.
Okay.
And I had another thought after someone came up with Auburn Intermediate School. We have Auburn High School, Auburn Middle School. So we've named them by their function. Intermediate school would do that. And Packagug, of course, is where it's located, and Bryn Mawr also. It's a big decision. And looking at some of these names that were submitted, I like some of them too. I'm not quite sure what I'd pick.
Okay.
I do know that we want the team to be known as the home of the Junior Rockets. We've got the Rockets in there, but I don't know.
Any other comments? Well, I would say that I appreciate you all coming out tonight. I don't think we're going to make a decision tonight. I think what I've learned over the past couple of days is as we got closer to the hearing, that we were getting a lot more feedback than these original dozen or so names, whether it be on social media or face-to-face or phone call, and I think that's the way to go about it. I think what happens is when we get to the 11th hour, that's when people start coming out of the woodwork with some ideas and some suggestions or some negative commentary, if you will, which is all fine. I think what I'd like to do is take into consideration what you folks had to say tonight, and I would agree that basic is good sometimes. Mr. Kennedy, I think I like the idea of the Swanson Road School. I think sometimes basic is better, and you're not going to offend people who are looking to have something memorialized. And I'm not taking anything away from you, Gail. I'm just saying that I've had a few different suggestions in the past couple of days that it be not necessarily memorial, but let's dedicate it to this person or that person. And I think what happens then is we start a little tug of war, and who's more important, and who should we name it after? Where if we stick to something basic, we don't really have that argument.
I was playing, through the chair, I was playing with the Swanson Road School, that idea.
Yep.
And I see one here that's at the very bottom of the list, Swanson Road Upper Elementary. And that kind of has a nice sound to it. Because I Googled some of these names just to see what would come up, like maybe other towns or districts. And when I did Swanson Road, I think I did Swanson Road School, I got Bryn Mawr. So I kind of went, well, I don't want people to confuse the two. But Swanson Road Upper Elementary sounds kind of unique. It's a big decision.
It is a big decision.
It
So
is.
I think what's best if the committee is in favor that we put it off for at least one more meeting before actually naming the school. And that way, we've had a few people come out and brave the elements tonight, and I appreciate that. I'm sure had it not been, close to sub-zero temperatures, we may have had a few more. So what we'll do is we'll let it, over the next week or two, I guess, see what else we come up with. But again, you're so right, Mr. Kennedy, that basic is better, and it doesn't have to have Auburn in the title, because we're pretty sure that our kids are from Auburn and going to an Auburn school. Even elementary and intermediate, again, we're pretty familiar with what grade they're going into when they get on the bus and head off to school, so it doesn't need to say that. But that's not to say that I want to discount any of the names that were put forward. That goes from the students' ideas, the parents' ideas, the ideas from the community. I always say how happy I am when there's a community celebration, or we have a concert, or we all meet somewhere at the ball field, or we have some kind of a celebration. That's excellent, but this is also excellent, that everyone, again, at the 11th hour, but everyone is coming forward with names, ideas, criticism. That's what it's all about. That's what community is all about. It's getting together for the greater good, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you folks coming out tonight. And again, feel free to contact me, email, phone call, with your complaints about what I might have had to say tonight even. I'm willing to listen. I appreciate you coming.
I would like to say thank you for coming too, but in this process, to be honest with you, my own personal feeling is that we need more people to come and speak and let us know their feelings, why they're picking these names. It would help us a lot more to really get in, down into it and see what people really, really want. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're working our merit badge, so.
We get a good public, good place of view.
Great.
Cub Scouts.
That's so cute.
Okay. And now back to special recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item, some recognitions noted in the superintendent's memo, recognizing 2 students from Auburn High, again, Anissa Shazai and Megan Johnson. Both have won awards at the Boston Scholastic Art and Writing. Some have been Silver Key Awards, Top Gold Key, as well as Honorable Mention. And the different artwork is noted in here, so offer our sincere congratulations to them, as well as their teachers and families for their efforts. We also, I want to recognize Zachary Turcott. He was the winner who will represent Auburn Middle School in the National Geographic B. They held their local competition. He will be participating in a written examination to determine whether or not he qualifies, but wanted to recognize him for having represented Auburn Middle School. Also, 3 students at Auburn Middle School each year, the Auburn Webster Lodge of Elks runs a drug awareness essay contest. It is Say No to Drugs is the generalized theme on that. And taking first, second, and third prize, we had Emma Gervais, Madison Poshkus, and Madison Kopolka. So notes of congratulations have gone to them. As well as Christine Robbins, a math teacher at Auburn Middle School. She applied to be part of the 2015 WPI Research Experience for Teachers program and has been accepted into that, so I wanted to congratulate her. And then one additional item that is not on here, but Mr. Kennard is one of the National Honor Society coordinators, as well as Mrs. Dutton. And they've been receiving very sincere notes and emails and calls of thanks from senior citizens in town. From the National Honor Society, 10 students for a total of 40 hours have gone out and helped shovel walkways and sidewalks and driveways for some of our seniors. So they are very appreciative, and I wanted to thank and recognize the students. I think that's a great way to give back to neighbors and friends and seniors certainly too.
Wayne?
I work with the seniors a lot. I go up to senior center a lot, and I've always been in with them. But and you hear a lot of good feedback from them, the help they do for the seniors, because it's so hard for them to do or get out, and it's just a great thing that they do for them.
Yeah.
Any other comments? I will say, as usual, on the special recognitions, our students and our teachers and our administrators are doing some great things, and it's great to see.
Yep.
And we have no student representative report,
We don't.
so I would seek approval for the minutes of our last meeting, which was February 5th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of February 5th.
Do I have a second? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is a vote. And we now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, I'd like to postpone my mid-year review. I'm not yet completed with that, with all of the other things ongoing, so I will have that for you on March 4th. But I can assure you I am working on my goals diligently.
Okay.
This page wants to be
Oh.
missed.
That was going to be the highlight of tonight.
Now you have something to look forward to.
There you go. Preview of coming attractions.
No sarcasm.
As we have for the past number of school years, Auburn High School was host to some students from China back on February 5th. There were 24 students who attended. I was not able to be at the high school this year when they came, but I have been there in years past, and it's just a great energy about it with the students from China and those obviously from Auburn High School. Anytime that we can engage our students with those outside of Auburn and in Massachusetts and in the country, really is very exciting. So I just wanted to bring your attention that did happen again this school year. Wanted to make you aware of the fact that the 9C cuts coming through from Governor Baker's office. We've received some generalized information around that, but until we get further notice, we have put in place a soft freeze. I think this is not in the same order as the superintendent's memo.
Page
No.
It's not, okay. Have put in place a soft freeze. We are always very diligent as we look through any requisitions that come through. But until those are known, obviously, if something comes that we have to address, we need to have funding available for that. So we'll continue to monitor that for you. And I think what I'll do is go back to the superintendent's memo. That's probably what people are reading from,
Yeah.
and follow that format if that works. Actually, I see now what happened. So page 3, if you just go to actual page 3, it lines up. It's just not in the correct order. So the 2015, 2016, so we were outreached, superintendents, by the Mass Association of School Superintendents regarding some legislation that is being proposed. And I did sign off on this. They are items that are in support of education and certainly could benefit directly students here in Auburn, but those across the Commonwealth. So I wanted to make you aware that notification had gone both to Representative Frost as well as Senator Moore around that. The Massachusetts Business Alliance for Education, this actually received some press in local media, conducted a study and released information comparing MCAS in Park to college and career readiness objectives. So I did include in here for you a copy of that information for you to have, just to for your leisure in reading. I imagine that information around these issues are going to continue to come out as we approach the time when the Board of Education will ultimately make their decision and take the vote on whether or not to transition to Park or not. So I'll keep you apprised, but thought you might be interested in some light reading around this issue.
Any comments?
Yeah, I actually read through this, and it's very informative. It
It
answered a
is.
lot of my questions that I
Oh,
have
good.
as a parent, so.
You know, one of the things we can do is get this posted up on the website. We have a whole section dedicated to Park, so we can be sure that that's posted up there, especially where people found it helpful.
Yeah, I actually forwarded it to a lot of my friends.
Oh, good.
who Also have concerns.
Great.
We now move on to unfinished business.
Just want to remind everyone about the bus applications. We did send it out in another email, most recently was yesterday, that they are due on April 1st. They are coming in, I'm happy to report, and hopefully will continue to do so. I know our goal each year is to have no late charges assigned, and that everyone must complete a form. Even those families who may qualify for free or Reader's Lunch, we have to have a form. That's how we build our lists. The SAT prep course, you had approved $50 to take off of the total cost for students for this. And we actually, the first session was Tuesday that they had. They had 12 students at that point signed up to take it, so not as large a number as we had hoped, but others may have. It was fairly late to do this announcement, but I think that if, depending on the success of this, and I anticipate it will be, that we would notify families well in advance. Some may have gone and done some private trainings on their own, or support on their own.
If I may ask a question on that, is Kaplan teaching it, or are our personnel doing it?
It's actually, you know, I went to the discussion session on that, and I believe Kaplan comes in, and actually they have, they have trained individuals who come in who teach those courses, so it is.
Okay.
Yep. The school building committee update, we did have a meeting on Tuesday evening, and I don't know if Mr. Page, if you want to bring this up, but a couple of items were brought up at that time and asked to be brought forward to school committee.
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's fine.
So the first item that was addressed at the meeting prior to the one just on Tuesday, Chief Coleman came and requested, what will happen with the fire training tower is there will not be a fence along the West Street side, but around the other three sides, the project has always called for a 4-foot chain link fence. Around the back side, which would be what would be seen from Auburn Middle School, is there are going to be plantings, blue spruce and different fairly fast-growing plants there. What the chief had requested at the meeting prior was, rather than a 4-foot chain link fence, to have a 6-foot vinyl fence. As discussed by SBC, what they would have to do is, should they make that change, that if the sides that come down, they want to make sure that it doesn't come too close to the road, because it could impede sight lines and things. So at the last meeting, they requested pricing for that. The school building committee was apprised of this on Tuesday. It would be a change order of just slightly over $10,000 to go from the chain link to the 6-foot vinyl. As the chief had stated and members of the SBC discussed, it really isn't, a safety or security issue. It really is more around aesthetics and that issue. And it really would be that the tower itself is approximately 30 feet high. So what it would do would be to conceal the different materials that they have there that they use in planned burns, whether it's pallets or metal or different things like that. So the SBC actually sent it to school committee to see what your thoughts were. They said they don't need an answer immediately, but because obviously they can't install a fence right now anyway with the frozen ground. But they're really looking for your direction, if it's something that you want to see the money spent on or not.
Not only that, to follow up on Mary Ellen's statement, is that they would like to know that the town would be part of pitching in for the extra cost.
Right, that was the other part. Thank
So,
you.
I don't think anybody has talked to the town about that issue as
I
of
have
yet.
not yet, nope.
So like Mary Ellen says, we got plenty of time, so I think it'd be a good thing to have her talk to Julie and them and see if there is money in there to pay for it, to help out with the cost.
I have a question. That's not used during the week, is it? It's just a weekend thing? I'm just wondering if it's going to be used when school's in session, that's...
The way that the planning board, when they made approval on it, would be that anytime there was a burn, it would be after coordination with myself and the fire chief. So to my knowledge, typically it's their nighttime or
Like
weekends
Saturday,
and
yeah,
Saturdays.
I've gone
and
by
things.
and
So,
they're doing
yeah.
that.
So I have every confidence that the chief and I will have no issue coordinating that, and it not
Because-
happening during the school day when students are in
Because
session.
at one time, they thought about they thought they were going to maybe move it somewhere.
I will say too, that Chief Coleman did report that there is interest in moving it. One of the challenges is though they need to go to a location that is yet undetermined, that has access to water, obviously, and there would be a cost to move it too.
Sure.
So they are looking into that. I think, it's likely a few years out anyway, but it is certainly, and I'm just quoting what the chief said, it is always been in the plan to at some point move it or relocate it.
Any other comments?
Well, I think a white vinyl fence, excuse me,
Oh,
would be better than a chain link. I mean, that at least is attractive.
Yeah, you're right.
I think there's more answers to be had before we make a final decision on this issue.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd like to put it on hold until at least the next meeting and see if Mary Ellen can get us an update on it before we do take a vote on it.
yeah, I'd like to see an actual, number as to how much it's gonna cost.
Right. So Mary Ellen was right, it was a little over 10,000.
Yeah, I can bring that through the chair to the next meeting. Yep.
Thank you.
And at that point, we go to the town and ask if they're willing to help pay for the fence? Is that the plan here?
That was one of the suggestions made by the SBC. My only comment on that would be that, in effect, the town is paying for the entire project
Right.
through, their approval for the funding for that. So, but it was absolutely the request of SBC, so I will follow up with the town to see if they would pay for, I think what was mentioned was half the cost of the 10,000, if I remember correctly.
And the landscaping is already part of the contract.
That's already part of the project, as is the 4-foot chain link fence. So the $10,000 is really the change order, the difference in the
Okay,
values.
just the difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The other thing is a few of the school buildings committee members were suggesting or bringing it up that what benefit is it actually doing for the school project? And if we should pay for it. I think that was, a few members had discussed that issue too. So there's a lot of things that need to be worked out here first.
Yeah, that's
It's true.
that's a point. I think, however, I think some of the population are gonna come back with, well, that's where you decided to build the school, next to the tower that we already had there. So I'm sure that'll be part of the discussion.
Yeah, well, there needs to be more discussion.
Needs to be more discussion. Hopefully, we can work it out, work together, and get it done.
And another thing, if they're gonna maybe move it in 3 years, why spend $10,000? Because at that point, the fence won't be necessary.
I think through the chair, I think through the school buildings committee and the chief, I think the biggest thing with the chief is whether he can actually move it in a few years or not because of the budget problems.
Yeah.
You know, because the magnitude of what the cost is gonna be to move
Move
it
it.
somewhere else, rebuild it, reset everything up. and
Yeah.
You're talking big money. It's not, it's a lot less than $10,000. But, like I said, there's quite a few questions that need to be answered before we,
Right.
I would like to vote on it.
There are. I'd like to actually take a walk out there and see where the fence is gonna go. Maybe meet Mr. Fahey, is that who I would meet out there?
Yep.
And see where the fence is gonna go, what it's gonna block. I don't imagine we're gonna have 30-foot pine trees, which would be nice, but
Right.
let's table this and,
Yeah, through the chair, I'd also like to actually see like what we're,
Yep.
the space that we're talking about.
kind of get an idea of the
Yeah.
angles when you're looking from the parking lot down there and what.
So what I will do is I will get some photos to share as well as a plot plan so that you can actually see the outlay of it. And, whether it's at the next meeting or not, if people have the opportunity to go, I think you get a great vantage point once you go up into the parking lot. Like when we did the tour, those of us who went through, when you see it from the window, you get a view.
Yeah.
So I think actually looking at it, but we will make that all part of the package for March 4th.
Sounds great, thank you.
The other item that they actually inquired about also involves a naming, and this came up through the FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. One of the items that we're looking at, as you know, there'll be 2 fields out here. There'll be the synthetic full-size turf field, then there'll be a practice field. So as part of the scoreboard for the synthetic turf, there won't be one on the practice field. The question is what to name that field, because it would say on there, for lack of a different name, Auburn Middle School field, which it could simply say that. A couple of things that have been discussed or mentioned by individuals was whether, you wanted to name it Randall Field. The other name, and we're looking into this through Town Clerk Ellen Gabry, as well as I put a call into the Masonic Lodge, because the property on this side, which is really more the majority of where the new middle school will sit, was from the Granger family. And that's actually the homestead, as I understand it, was their original homestead that is now Crystal Caves, you get the ice cream in that. So they had named the field that they gave use to United Soccer for many years, the Kerry Granger Field out there. So those were 2 names that were suggested. Obviously, naming, as school building committee recognizes, is a function of the school committee. So what my thought would be is, this is time sensitive because they need to release the order soon for the scoreboard, because they want to have it installed before they install the synthetic turf, otherwise they risk working on it and potentially damaging it. So, should you wish to entertain this, would be to set the public hearing for March 18th. We could bring forward potential names. Those are two I would think to potentially be considered. They represent land that was originally donated for these properties. But I leave that up to you to see, or it could certainly stay as Auburn Middle School field.
Here we go again.
Yeah, right. Same thing. Here we go again.
I think we should have a public hearing
Yeah.
and we'll decide from there, I guess.
Okay.
I like the idea of the family names who originally donated the land. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty fitting.
Yeah,
And I really like the Auburn Middle School field.
yeah.
That's another great
No.
name. But do we need a motion to?
To set a public hearing, you would
Okay.
need that motion,
I would
yes.
entertain a motion to set a public hearing for March 18th at our
March
regularly
18th, yes.
scheduled school committee meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions?
I have a comment. As someone that played on that field when I was 7 years old, we were always told it was Randall Field because Mr. Randall gave us the land from his farm.
Mhm.
And when we played there, I mean, the cows were in the background and the farmhouse and all that. And so in my mind, it's,
It is a Randall school. That was the Randall house. We used to have a Randall florist there,
Yeah.
yeah,
so it was Randall.
those of us
Well,
that,
now we got another one.
those of us that remember Auburn way back when,
And I will go
Very
further
good.
back than Gail does.
thank goodness.
Wow.
And thank you for the surprise public comment.
I couldn't resist it.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Surprise
My
public
mother
comment.
used to get flowers from the Randall florist. They had the flower gardens there, and they would sell the flowers in Worcester at the Randall florist. So it was the Randall. I favor Randall.
All right.
Sorry about
You're
that.
gonna have to come back on the 18th.
Make sure you cover the
No,
meeting.
back to work. All right. Any other questions?
No.
Comments? No, thank you. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
It is a vote, aye.
And there are two fields, so
Oh.
there's a potential.
Oh, we do. So one could be
There'll be a
Randall.
practice field, and then
One
only
could be
one will
Rand-
have a scoreboard, but you could
Right.
certainly have some sort of
So
a,
one could be Randall and one could be Granger.
it could,
So you want to have that both on the same date then?
yes,
That what we're
oh,
doing?
good, yeah, to
Okay.
name the fields, yes.
All right.
Yeah. And you could vote at that time to not name them,
Yeah,
obviously.
well, while we're naming things.
Yeah.
Oh, what the heck? Vote in line.
All right, moving right along.
The school use distribution, they actually had a tour of the Julie Bancroft School on Tuesday. I don't know if Ms. Sutton has any update to report at all, or progress?
Through the chair, it was a really enlightening tour. We went through every inch of the school without students being there, including the boiler rooms, all of the bathrooms. It was, and it was nice because Mr. Fahey actually walked us through where some of the pain points were when every single component had actually been replaced in recent years. And then the committee met afterwards just to begin brainstorming on what were some potential pluses and minuses to using that plot of land for different purposes. What we did conclude at that meeting is that we really need more information on the cost that it would take to, first of all, get it prepared to sell, if we were to sell, or get it prepared to be transferred into another use, because it is not grandfathered into any of the other code items, which is American Disabilities Act, the new fire code. So we have a lot more to learn, but we have many folks out doing a lot of homework to bring back to us for our next meeting, which is March 2nd, at which time we will do the same thing at Mary D. Stone School. So it was a really good group. And I'll
Excellent.
bring an update back to the next meeting.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your efforts, and please thank your committee for putting in the work. We do appreciate it. Any other comment?
I actually skipped over the master plan team. I apologize. We actually had a meeting at 6 o'clock this evening. So on behalf of Mr. Ringard, chairperson, as well as all members of the master plan team, just wanted to share with you, as Mr. Ringard said, our mission as a master plan team when we, at the outset of this work, was to work on, coordinate renovations to 10 Swanson Road to ready it for grades 3 to 5. We'll refer to it still as 10 Swanson Road School until renamed. And Mr. Ringard read through the vast number of items that will be completed at that school prior to the opening, starting with the complete redesign of the parking lot that happened this past summer. And the commitment initially, and it will be maintained, was to do it at no additional cost to Auburn taxpayers by repurposing CIP funds. So we are confident that we're going to continue to be able to stay to that pledge. We opened bids yesterday actually, earlier this week, and as well as a couple of weeks ago. And in total, we are recommending the school building committee, master plan team, voted unanimously to recommend to the school committee that you award the contract for renovations to 10 Swanson Road to Antonelli Construction Company in the amount of $967,784,000. And what that will include is the expansion of the kitchen, the addition of a teacher's room downstairs, 2 handicap accessible bathrooms on the lower level in the cafeteria, a complete redesign of the office area, the nurse's office being moved across the hallway, as well as HVAC work, some plumbing work, and all that goes with that. So we feel confident that that they were the lowest bidder for that, and it is my recommendation that you approve that.
I would entertain a motion.
And you don't have it in front of you, unless you do, Gail, because...
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so the Antonelli.
I had asked if he was familiar, Mr. Ringard was familiar with this construction company, and he said very much so. He thought they were highly respected. He knew them for a long time, and they've done a lot of work, I guess, on the Shrewsbury schools.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be confident in making a motion that we grant the contract to Antonelli Construction for the sum of $967,784.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Comment? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's a vote.
And I do want to echo the comments through the chair of members of the master plan team, and really thank Mr. Fahey as well as Mr. Ringard, Mr. Miller, and the entire team for their work on this. It really has been a massive undertaking, and the students will be the beneficiaries, so I thank them all for their hard work.
Very impressive with their knowledge and the things they're doing. I mean, it's for free
Right.
for us. I mean, that's wonderful.
I did attend the Board of Selectmen's meeting last week on the 10th. Shared with them the great news about the accelerated repair for the roofs at Auburn Middle and Bryn Mawr School, as well as a new boiler at Auburn Middle School. They were appreciative of that. I also shared with them about the circuit breaker monies that we will seek from general funds in the amount of $144,000. And they didn't take any votes that evening because the warrant's not yet open for March 24th, but I wanted to make you aware that next week, on the 25th, I will go to the Finance Committee meeting for that same purpose. I included for you a copy of the letter, and will seek their support as well. I feel comfortable in saying the Board of Selectmen seemed very much in support. No vote was taken, so hopefully it'll be the same with Finance.
Okay.
The budget discussions, Mr. Barber and I met with Town Manager Jacobson and CFO Kazanovich last week. Actually, we met with them again this morning, as we regularly do with them. And at that time, which was on February 11th, their recommendation was an increase in the school department's budget of a 1.55% increase over last year's budget. If you recall, the budget that you sent forward as a school committee represented a 3.01% increase. So what I'd like to do is walk you through the document that you have before you. And wanted to show you, as I indicated in here, what that would look like to get to the 1.55. So staying with the top page, column B, that first column, and I apologize, the headings are not accurate. That first column, if you go to the very end, represents the budget that we sent forward, 3.01% at $23,672,521. The next column over, as we regularly do, Mr. Barber and I and other members of the leadership team, the next column that is not labeled, you'll actually see in that column there is an increase that we need to add to the budget. And if you look at the very bottom there, as you know, and this has happened in years past, as students' needs change, if they require out-of-district placements, we have an obligation, both legal and ethical, to provide for them. So it is our recommendation that we add $40,000 to the budget in order to cover that cost for next school year. So that actually brought the budget up to a 3.18%. So then it just heightened the work that we needed to do in the next three columns. Column C, what you see is, assuming we receive approval from town meeting for that money from circuit breaker, the $144,519, it would be our recommendation that we apply that as an offset to next year's budget. Applying that brings the budget request down to 2.56% of an increase. Column D, in these reduction scenarios, so as we do each time we meet, we do shifting around to make sure that, we're addressing the priorities. It would still require the elimination at our primary schools of the media tech specialists. They were going to share one of those. So you see that reduction taken from Bryn Mawr and Packagug. From 10 Swanson Road, currently, we have the original plan, which was written in here, was to send forward 2 school nurses to 10 Swanson Road. And we actually have had a nurse who has very recently left our employees, so we're hiring a sub to cover through the end of the school year, a well-known sub to us, to cover for the end of the school year. I think that this is an opportunity for us so no one would be losing their job next year if we were to eliminate a position, because we have a sub in there now, is to have a full-time school nurse, and then to bring on board an LPN who could assist with some of the screenings and could also provide some coverage at other schools. That actually realizes us a reduction of $15,000.
I just have one question, actually, if you could back just to the media tech specialist.
Mm-hmm.
That is taking out the addition of a new
Correct.
part-time. We're not, okay.
Correct.
That's not
This,
Thank you.
even with these budget reductions, it does not represent us losing any staff.
Great.
We still will actually be adding some staff.
Okay.
So yes, and I thank you for asking that for clarification. What you do see, though, at 10 Swanson Road, so actually if I stay with column D, the next change in here would be, and this you've seen before, the reduction of 2 inclusion IAs, instructional assistants, at Auburn High School. And that's being done, we're going to replace with a special education teacher. So that is still part of the budget, to add a special ed teacher. If you recall, originally there was a request to add a second school psychologist. This would actually be reducing that to half-time. So that's at a savings of approximately $10,000. So in total, that gets us to an increase of 2.1%. So the final column, in order to get to the 1.55%, what we took was a nominal figure from the supplied lines from each of the schools. The primary schools was $1,000, the 10 Swanson Road is $2, middle school is $2, and high school is $3. And we would work to purchase items if needed this year, so it did not have a direct impact on students. We had originally proposed a full-time tech media specialist at 10 Swanson Road. Getting to the 1.55%, This would actually allow for a half-time person to be there. And the thinking being that we have positions in place at the high school, the middle school, and this would be the next natural progression to start with half-time there. Additionally, we were looking to increase our half-time guidance counselor at the high school to full-time. This would allow it to add an additional day to her schedule. We would still transfer a teacher from the high school to the middle school. We have 2 teachers who are retiring from the middle school, so no one again would lose their job. It would be just a transfer. And then the reduction of one additional IA. You see a further reduction, a slight reduction in the supply lines, and then also in the contractual obligations, which gets us to the 1.55% that the town meeting, that town's administration has recommended. At this point, you don't need to take any action on this. I know these are brand-new numbers, and I'd actually like to clean up this document, so with a page 1 subtotal that should be at the bottom of the page, and I will make those adjustments and we can email this to you. In keeping with this, the special town meeting, as you know, is on March 24th. We originally had our public hearing scheduled for March 18th. That was planned well in advance of knowing about this date. It is my recommendation that we change our public hearing on the budget until after the special town meeting. The prime reason is, and I believe town meeting will approve this $144,000 coming back to us, but you can't vote a budget without knowing if they will. So in our meeting with Town Manager Jacobson and Mr. Kazanovich this morning, April 1st, that's a regularly scheduled school committee meeting. We could hold the meeting right at the high school, do the public hearing in the auditorium, and then continue on with our meeting, if that works.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any comments, questions about the budget scenarios?
The only, to the Chairman, the only thing I would like to say, do you feel comfortable getting down to the 1.55%? I mean, just because they're giving you a number what they feel, we still need to run the school system.
I agree. I agree with you completely. I think another piece of information that will be important to bring back to the committee, and we'll have this ready for March 4th, is what positions are we adding? So as a leadership team, I can state to you that the budget that we presented forward and that you ultimately voted at 3.01 really reflected what we believe that we need, ideally, to go forward. We recognize that there are fiscal challenges. What we really tried to prioritize was making sure that we are taking care of students' emotional and behavioral and academic needs. So we are adding some school psychologist support. We are adding a guidance counselor still in this budget to the middle school level. So we really tried to be sure, and we're adding some time to the high school, the 5th guidance counselor there. So, ideally, we'd love the full amount that we initially brought forward to you.
Right.
So, I think that, when you see what we are adding, and it's always about, priorities, even the recommendation that's coming forward from Mr. Kazanovich and Mrs. Jacobson at this point is really without us having any guidance from the state. Because we have a new governor, we don't know what those numbers are going to reflect. The budget is supposed to come out on March 4th. So I think, waiting to deliberate on this after we know some more things, I think is a wise, wise thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for providing this anyway, just to give us a frame of reference for which way it could go, so thank you.
Yep.
I have a question through the chair. So the town gave us their input, and what if we don't agree on that number, and what happens?
So
From
really,
there.
the town makes a recommendation. It's ultimately town meeting who authorizes spending. So we could go to town meeting, and the budgets brought forward by the town manager and CFO will be reviewed and voted either to recommend or not recommend by the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee. So we always, all groups, reserve the ability to get up and make the case to town meeting, who could vote a higher number for us.
All right.
Well, thanks for putting that together. It
thank
certainly
you.
makes sense. It was
Okay?
pretty easy to follow as far as what we were going to be cutting, and following up on what Wayne said, yeah, we would love to have that media specialist. I mean, with technology being what it is, we really should have that person in place. We really should. There should be someone in there at any time during the day, if someone wanted to go down there and use the laptops or whatever it might be, and they should have the support down there. But if this is what we need to do to kind of help out with the town and do our part, should these budget numbers come in worse than we think,
Right.
then obviously we're going to be with that last scenario. But thanks for putting that together. Wayne?
I'd just like to continue with yours, as you, board members had voted on a 3.01. And, you know, they're asking us to go down to 1.55.
Half of that.
I mean, you know, we're here to educate our children.
Yeah.
We're here to make the school system run. I'm not saying you need to stick with the 3.01 if the leadership team and Mary Ellen see fit that they could do something to bring it down to a point. But how much more damage are we gonna do to go all the way down to 1.55?
Right, yeah, through the chair. Also, I'm concerned about the school nurse situation at 10 Swanson Road. I mean, that's a lot of kids with one school nurse. I just feel like, you know, that should be a last resort. We're talking the safety issue.
Through the chair, it would be one school nurse and a licensed practical nurse, so there'd actually be two people in the nurse's office.
But this scenario,
agree.
column D, would that be cutting the,
No, that's
Part-time.
actually the savings.
Oh, I see, okay.
By having the LPN there.
Oh, okay.
With the registered nurse.
All
yeah.
right.
Yep.
sorry.
No, it's
Any
okay.
other comments?
No, I just think Jess makes a good point on that nursing issue, because, you know, things can happen to our students in schools, and we have different issues going on between diabetes and other things we need to deal with in special ed and stuff like this. So we need to make sure we have our nurses in our schools. Whether we, you know, I don't like to see that cut either. If there's maybe some way we can come up with a different scenario or different things, I like to see that too, and I like to keep the nurses in there if possible.
2 full-time.
Well, I think since
Right.
we are losing one nurse, but we're gaining an LPN for the same amount of hours, is that correct?
Correct.
I think, I think that's sufficient, I really do. You have the licensed nurse there, the RN, and you have an LPN to handle, you know, some of the smaller things, the smaller items, maybe applying a Band-Aid here or there. And if there's an emergency,
Yeah,
you know.
but through the chair, there's a lot more issues than just Band-Aids, George.
Yeah.
That's just, you're way out of bounds on that one, because there's so many issues medically with students today and everything else. I mean,
But we're talking.
I'm sorry, I disagree with that.
Well,
but-
you've been talking with the nurses too, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so.
but I haven't discussed anything about
Oh,
hiring
no,
or...
no, but I mean, you
This is
probably.
the first
heard-
time I actually saw this tonight.
Right, but what I'm getting at is you probably have heard them talk about what they do
Right, oh yeah,
and those kind of things
Well,
more so.
this-
You might know more about that than
right,
I would, because I haven't talked to them,
right.
that kind of thing.
Well, let's just say that, I just want the public to know that we would never put their children or our children in danger. So, that being said, I believe there's a reason why they're called a licensed practicing nurse. They're qualified, they're very qualified. And with the leadership of an RN, I think we're in good shape there.
Through the chair.
Ms. Harrington?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the nurses if they think that's adequate, you know, and if they're comfortable with that situation, then certainly we could move forward with that. But, I mean, if, like Wayne brings up a good point with the diabetic problem and a lot of students, and the nurses were in here doing their presentation, and there is a lot of work that goes on. I would want to make sure that they are comfortable with that.
Mr. Page?
Is there any way we could either get a list from the nurses for our next meeting, or have one come and explain what they actually deal with in the school system as far as help?
Like, through the chair, I think that they came and did a presentation a few months back that
Yeah, but I
highlighted the
think it
different
would be
things
nice
that
if they
did.
came back and re-highlighted it, just so, for budget reasons.
Through the chair, might I humbly suggest that perhaps it would be most helpful for us to better understand the difference between what a registered nurse is actually qualified by the state to do as opposed to an LPN, because I know that I actually don't know. So that I think that might help us make our decision to understand just the difference in the credentialing, because
Mhm.
perhaps it would fill the bill, perhaps it wouldn't. I just know at this point I wouldn't be qualified in the state either way.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we get that licensure information, I guess is what you'd call it.
Okay.
And if we can't have a nurse here to present something, if we could get a full update or recap
Or a list.
of what they presented last time around. And also, as always, a comparison to a couple of other schools.
Sure, we have that data.
And what they're doing as far as LPNs or RNs. I
Yeah.
know,
I, for one, would like to know what an licensed LPN could not do.
Versus,
Mhm.
right.
So that if we have a student in there, is one going to be able to help and the other one not? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I will say that we've been operating with an RN and an LPN for a number of years that I've been at the vocational school, with all the accidents that we've have there, as well as other health issues.
So
And
that's the
we've done-
situation you have in Bay Path?
Yeah.
How
We've
many
done
students is
okay.
that?
1,100.
And there's a big age difference too.
Yeah,
Talking high
and we're
schoolers.
Auburn, not Bayfield.
Yeah, we do more damage.
Our playgrounds are rough, you know?
Yeah, but it's not even
All
that,
right.
it's just the diseases and
Oh, it is, I know.
all kinds of issues
The
going on.
kids are coming to school.
Moving right along.
If I could ask a
We
question.
do need to vote on
Oh, we
the
need to
change of
vote.
date for the public hearing, yeah.
All right, where were we?
April 1st, yeah.
I'd entertain a motion for the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to amend the public hearing for March 18th as a list.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
Through the chair, if I could just ask a question, not having been here last year. When you presented a budget last year, did you have to reduce it a lot last year too? So
Yes.
is this a continuing reduction every
This
year?
is, through the chair, this has been an activity that has happened for the 7 years that I've been in this
Yeah,
process.
that's the way
We
it works.
we send forward a draft, and then as numbers come out, this is the latest numbers will have come out, because this is the first time with the new governor.
Right.
But we have continued to tweak it, sometimes up to a week before town meeting.
Is this the lowest you've had to go?
I would say the first year that I presented a budget, there was actually a reduction in the
Okay.
previous year's budget by, I think it was about a 0.5%. I could look and see, I can get that information for you
Well,
next time
I'm
as
just
well.
wondering for feel for what's been going on in the
Comparatively,
schools.
sure.
Yeah.
We can get that information for you next time, too.
I mean, if you're constantly reducing, that's not good for a school system.
Yep.
Right.
They did.
Yep.
The next item is, so the school year calendar. And this is not before you for a vote this evening, but I wanted to share with you some of the different scenarios that are being considered. And to start off by saying to you, there are actually 5 options that were included in the packet. And to start off by saying that this current school year's calendar, as well as next school year's calendar, are very unique ones. And the reason is that we will, in the summer of 15, open a new middle school, open a renovated, and do the renovations, a vast majority of it, during the summer of 15, the current middle school, and we will close 2 schools. We are transitioning to a new middle school, taking 2 schools to 10 Swanton Road, taking another school. So the idea has been right from the start to have as long a summer in 2015 as is manageable. That's why the current school year, we started prior to Labor Day, as we have typically in the past, and we minimized the February vacation week. Normally, we would be off this entire week. Instead, students were off on Friday afternoon, and all staff were off, all teachers were off, and school-based staff on Monday and Tuesday. As we look to next school year, and as part of, the whole master plan team work, we've had 4 snow days so far this year. Hopefully we are done, but that will be weather dependent. So where we were originally, students' last day would have been June 8th, it's now June 12th, and teachers are here for a couple days beyond that. So if you look at option 1 here in this calendar, and option 1 and 2 both start this way, would be to have students' first day be the Tuesday after Labor Day, which this year would be September 8th. Teachers would come in the week before that for their opening day, for a couple of days of professional development. As a leadership team, we talked about doing an open house at all of the schools on maybe the afternoon of the 3rd, potentially. All of the schools would be closed on the 4th. Students would come in on the 8th. Now, the reason we would push to that is to be sure that we have ample time this summer to have all of the renovations done, all of the transitions made. And we're confident we can, but I think that extra week would give us even additional comfort. Knowing that we need to do 180 school days, though, and that the end of June is not ideal, or typically has not been ideal conditions for learning due to the heat and all of that, that again, option 1 looks at an abbreviated February vacation. It would have students' last day as June 14th, has 4 half-days throughout the year. We put 2 professional development days prior to Students' Day, and then 1 in March. The difference between options 1 and 2, option 2 has the traditional full February vacation, still starts students on September 8th, but then students' last day is the 17th, with staff's last day on Monday the 20th, and again, snow days are built into that calendar, which vary year to year, but we've not yet had a year where we have no snow days, so I think that's probably unrealistic to think. It'd be great, but I think it's unrealistic in Massachusetts to think that. Options 3 and 4 are actually not viable options because they're in conflict with the teacher's current contract. So unless the contract were to change, and it may very well not, they really are not viable options, but I just wanted to present you with as many different ones as possible. Option 5 is probably the most traditional of the options. It would have teachers starting the Monday before Labor Day, having a professional day on the 1st. Students would come in for 2 days, the 2nd and 3rd. It would give us the full February vacation, but the problem is we now then lose a week for all of those transitions this summer. So I share these with you. I'm happy to answer questions. I did share this with the leadership of the AEA just this afternoon. It was the first time they had seen it. There is rationale, I would say to you, because of the uniqueness of our situation with the number of transitions starting after Labor Day. And then coincidentally, what came out from the State House, the state educational chief, we included here, this actually was just published yesterday, a letter that's urging school districts to be creative in how they set their schedules. Many districts have not typically started before Labor Day. We typically have, and this year I'm suggesting we not, but that's because of the transitions and things. There are districts who have had 11, 12, 13 snow days this year. They will make accommodations. My strong suspicion is that we will see probably some fairly markedly different school calendars across the Commonwealth this year in reaction to the circumstances that we have, this year. They're recommending, maybe eliminate February and April and stay with March. We did not look at that as an option because of the survey results we had last year. It was very strong coming out to keep the April vacation, and if one needed to be abbreviated, to do that with February. Primarily, I think, is that people assume that between the January return to school and February break, there's likely to be some snow days in there, and you know, we had a snow day free December, you know, and then January went crazy. So I share that with you just for your consideration, and we'll bring back an option. I will say I've shared this with leadership, we've discussed it at length, and option one is our preferred option for the reasons that I stated.
Any questions?
For the chair, I just actually have a question about with the leadership team, with the open houses for all of the schools.
Mhm.
Given that so many people tend to travel for the Labor Day holiday, will there be more than one option for this? It's just a consideration for those who...
Yeah, so through the chair, what we were thinking was we would probably still hold the traditional open houses at the elementary schools when parents go and kind of meet the teacher. This would be more in the afternoon of the 3rd, so that way members of the community, so it would even be broader, could come in and see the brand new middle school, could come in and see, but the real educational open house, that would still happen probably at some point in September.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. And the other good news to share, I sent this in the email notification, I think that went out yesterday, that we had 95% attendance yesterday with students, which is a great attendance rate. You know, considering winter generally brings with it more flu and colds, and that is very comparable to a regular winter day. Is actually great attendance rate. So I thank the parents for sending the children and the staff for coming.
Any other questions, comments?
I just have a comment. I saw a number of calendar attempts through my years of teaching in Auburn, and one of them was a March vacation instead of February and April. And what we found in February is so many of the students were sick that we had class, some days we'd have 6 students, 10 students. It was just awful. So we really lost ground. And I think they needed to get away from each other and to stop the illnesses. So March just didn't work. And I certainly understand this year why you want to start after Labor Day, just to make sure you have all the time that you possibly can have.
Right.
But I am in favor of keeping the February vacation, just having experienced it myself, with giving you a chance to get away from children that have been sick. Sometimes you're sick, but you know the vacation's coming, it gives you a chance to rest. Also, other teachers that live in other districts, then it compounds the problem because you're working and your children aren't, and now all of a sudden you need daycare. And sometimes, I know when I needed daycare, the daycare person I used only took teachers' children. So if everyone else's children didn't have school and yours did, you were out of luck. So it does make a lot of issues, and for parents at home too. Just some thoughts.
Thank you. Ms. Harrington?
Through the chair, I know just from the people that I interact with daily, they loved this abbreviated February vacation. So it went over really well.
I would just say that, to follow up on what both of you have said, Commissioner Chester is pretty much demanding that we find a better way around this. He's not taking any excuses, no maybes, we might do this, can we try that, nothing. He just wants us to be creative and figure something out. So, to follow up on what you said about the daycare, and I understand that, I went through that myself. It's a situation where I think other districts, as Dr. Brunel said, are going to be changing. So we may be in line with them, they may follow our lead, we may have to pick up on some of their ideas, and on top of that, This is for the upcoming school year, and then we'll take another look at it again. Obviously, this is because of the construction. So this will not be a lasting calendar. This is not going to last forever. We'll address it again, and then maybe we'll get some continuity in the next time around.
Well, another positive change is the schools now have air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I mean, I taught 40 years without it, and it was pretty miserable in June, but this would make a big difference. And I think the quality of the education in June would be a lot better because the students and teachers are in a better environment.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, my point is, how long of a June, July, August vacation do you want? I mean, that's a lot of time for students to forget some.
I want it really long.
Are you asking me personally?
I know, because I leave, so.
But also the dog days of late August are just brutal on the kids.
Well, good job on those
That's why we have air
calendars.
conditioning.
Yeah,
Nicely
thank
done.
you for the options.
All right, moving right along.
Yeah.
In terms of upcoming events, as it is at all times of the year, we remain busy and focused, and tonight, in fact, is the 8th grade orientation program or presentation at the high school, which is still ongoing, and kindergarten registration, I told you, was held. Screening will be upcoming, and lots of things are happening. Good things, but lots of things are happening.
Excellent. We now move on to business and financial, Mr. Barber.
You,
I'm waiting patiently.
I try to be quiet most of the time. Through the chair, in your package, you're going to find our list of budget transfers. Similar to the past couple of school committee meetings, we have the first one, which is purely for informational purposes, where we're making some changes or some corrections to payroll encumbrances. What I will need for is a school committee approval for us to allow for 2 budget transfers. One in the amount of $24,000, which is for us to fund gymnasium pads for the 10 Swanson Road School, as well as an additional $20,000 to correct encumbrances for the building improvements that we're currently implementing within the school as well.
Make a motion to approve the transfers as specified by Mr. Barber.
Do I have a second?
I'd second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
Thank you very much. In addition, in your packet, you'll see there is an updated listing of all of the current balances in our revolving accounts and our other special funds that I provide on a monthly basis. You'll see, with the exception of the school lunch account, which, because we have to encumber the payroll accounts for all of our staff, just like all the other reports normally, that's the only one that you'll see that's currently at a deficit. But as we go through the course of the fiscal year, we generate our revenues, over the course of each week and so forth. That allows us to offset that encumbrance, which can some point come towards the end of the school year, you'll see that we should hopefully be a balanced number rather than at a deficit. Other than that, these are again all the balances we have for all of our revolving accounts and other special revenue accounts. As discussed previously by Dr. Brunel, we had the closing of our bus bid yesterday. In doing so, we did have 4 vendors that had come to the bid submission. We only received 1 proposal, though. It was from AA Transportation. AA Transportation is our current vending contractor, who is, technically speaking, that organization has actually been with us for a couple of decades now. But with their proposal that they'd submitted, you'll also see that I've included in your packet, there was a projection of fiscal year 16 transportational cost memo that was submitted to Dr. Brunel yesterday. This, in essence, shows a little bit of a comparison towards how we had budgeted for our fiscal year 16 in comparison to what the budget came into for the proposal that AA Transportation had submitted. For our regular transportation, in addition to our athletic and special activities in our special education untasked district, all of our budget amounts were actually pretty much in check with where we were projecting to come through versus what we were receiving for our bid proposal. So from a budgetary perspective, we're in pretty good shape for fiscal year 16. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions? No?
Actually, I'm sorry, I do. Sure. Like, how do we handle if there's a problem with one of the buses, the condition of the bus? I guess there's a bus where the windows don't go up, and it was used for a field trip, and the kids were freezing, and no one could get the windows up, and the bus driver was scraping her mirror because they had ice forming on it while she's driving down the highway. So I'm just wondering how we would go about, a complaint, handling a complaint.
Usually, any issues that take place with respect to the buses, whether it's the regular day school busing or whether there's an extra activity bus, usually I'm the one that's usually contacted. And by allowing me to contact them, that allows me to have a communication with the respective vendor that we're using. So say, for instance, it's out-of-district transportation and it's Vanpool, for instance, I can call, I usually would be contacting that particular vendor, going through what the situation is with the bus. I know that we had an issue, I want to say maybe about a month ago, regarding an accident that had taken place leaving the 10 Swanson Road on a skiing trip. And so literally when that information came in, I was able to communicate directly with AA Transportation and found out that obviously the bus was slightly bumped and a couple of little things. And in that case, there was a window that was cracked because of the accident that we were able to kind of have taken place. So for the most part, there are issues with buses. For me to be informed in that way, it'll allow me to make the proper communications with our contractors and to get that fixed.
Okay, great.
Mr. Page?
I was just wondering how they're managing with all the snow and everything. You had that many accidents, or is everything seemed pretty smooth?
There really hasn't been that many accidents. I know we have been receiving a handful of phone calls just because of, say for instance, the sidewalks not being plowed yet, so students standing in certain areas, or I know there was a situation because of a construction project that was taking place over towards, I believe it was over towards JV, and so when one of the buses came around to a tight corner, it kind of got stuck on a snowbank, so thankfully they were able to be dug out to allow the bus tires to go. But, that, again, same thing where the communications went back and forth, so our principal at Bryn Mawr actually made a call to all of the parents informing them that, the bus was slightly delayed, but it obviously was in full check to be at the bus stop in a short period of time. So, and again, that's the main opportunity that we want to make sure is that we're informing everybody, especially when it comes to their students leaving either the school to go home or going to school, or in some circumstance going to an athletic or a field trip of some sort, just to make sure that we're utilizing the proper transportation to get the students where they need to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Anything else? Anything else, Mr. Barber?
That's all that I have for this evening.
That's
Thank
it. All right, thank you. Well done.
Through the chair, we would actually be looking for school committee as approval to award the contract to the sole bidder, the low bidder of AA Transportation.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I would second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is a vote.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We now move on to policies.
So the field trip policy I updated based on feedback provided at the last meeting. I believe it is in keeping with what you had requested. Basically that all out-of-state and overnight field trips would still require your approval, but it would not require the teacher or teachers to come before you, assuming it had been approved previously, was in one of the New England states that is listed there, and had not had any issues for the past couple of school years. So this encompasses that, your wishes.
I would entertain a motion to recommend.
I would make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. And I will pass that along to principals and teachers, and I know they would thank you.
And we, tell me that we don't.
We do.
Tell me that we don't.
You do.
Shall we brief?
I would entertain a motion into executive session.
You got it? I make a motion to enter executive session per Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to contract negotiations with union personnel.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Union, non-union.
Union and non-union.
Roll call
Need to
vote.
add that.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Ms. Sutton?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Scobie?
Yes. It is a vote. Good night, everyone.
If it